Hello denizens of the internet, this is Kira Una coming to you today with my face in the camera because I gotta talk kind of quietly because my partner is currently sleeping. It's late at night, and what else do we think about late at night when the partner is in bed? We think about things coming up in October, crunchy leaf season, spice, pumpkins, and we're gonna make a witch hat, so come join me. Editing Kira here. I apologize about the fan in the background. It's a little warmer than it usually should be around this time of year because it should be cooler with, a lot more leaves turning color. But that aside, this particular video series will be in a series. There will be more than one video, so you have time to make your patterns while I'm waiting for fabric to come in the mail. I will be using a bunch of scraps from previous projects in this particular hat, so don't worry, I will be recycling a little bit other than adding just new material. But I will also be using fabric from previous projects and even some donated by some of my classmates in this project, so it'll be a sort of a collaborative effort. So with that said, keep in mind this is the first of several videos. I'm not sure how many videos are going to be in this, but let's get started. First things first is we have to measure out our head to get an idea of how big we need that hat to be. We need to tame that hair and get it out of the way. And if you have a lot of it like I do, you may need to add a little bit of extra in the circumference to accommodate for your coiffure. You need a tape measure to figure out what your head size is. You want to have the tape measure go over the ears for a more comfortable fit. Make sure that you fit around your head where the hat is most likely to sit. Since I don't want it directly in my face, we're going to need to have a little bit of extra space. My head is normally between a 22 and a 23 inch on average, but I'm going to add a little bit extra and make it 23.5 inches. Yes folks, we are working with the Freedom units for the sewing here in Canada, and my plan is to add a lining to this later, but more on that later. Next, we want to figure out the brim depth. On my store-bought hat, it seems to be about 4 inches or so, but you can make it as short or as deep as you want it to be. I think I'll go with about 5 inches. Next, we're going to go over to the drafting table. I used an Excel spreadsheet that I found on the internet to make this hat template. If you would like to use the same to help you with the math, it will be in the description box down below for the link. We're going to use the hat height as my radius for this pattern. It says my height of the hat based on the circumference should be 11.62 inches, but in the drafting phase I wound up making it closer to about 11 7/8. We're going to use the pin and string method for the main hat base. Pinning the string as my center, I'm going to use the string to draw out most of a circle. Then I'm going to measure out on the curve as best I can to 23.5 inches and make my marks. Then we're going to add 1/2 inch seam allowance on all sides and make the point of the pattern slightly flatter at the top as it will be inside the seam allowance. Then I'm going to bust out my compass, and the math says that the radius for the inner brim where my head will go and where the brim will attach to the hat base will be 3 3/4 inches. The Excel spreadsheet said 3.74, but I'm going to make it ever slightly larger, but at that point of a number off isn't going to make that much of a difference. That will be noticeable. We're going to make the outer brim circumference mainly with what room I had left on my paper. I believe that made it out to about 4.5 inches extra. I'm going to use the holes in my ruler with the point of the compass to pivot the ruler and use it as a center point to draw that second circle out to make my brim. Then we're going to add the seam allowance to the inner circle only, as we won't need seam allowance on the outside of the brim, and I will explain that in another segment. We're going to next make sure that we mark the pattern that the brim pattern piece will be cut out on the fold, because making a full circle would take up a lot of paper that I don't have room for. If you have enough paper, you can make it a full circle, but here I'm going to do half. All pieces for the brim will get cut out on the fold on the grain wherever possible. Since this is patchwork, the grain may be in all sorts of different directions, but we have a solution for that, don't worry. Then once all the drafting is done, we're going to take a second to outline all of it in a blue permanent marker, and then we're going to cut it all out. In the pattern drafting world, it's usually a good idea to mark when you made your pattern as well as what kind of pattern it is for, just so that you have it for future reference or for future use if you're going to make multiples. For materials, you're going to want to start off with your scraps. They don't have to be Halloween themed, but that's what I'll be rolling with for mine. You're going to want either a galvanized stainless steel or millinery wire for the outer brim to help shape it or to help make it so it's not so floppy. If you want to, you can use some plain bias strips like what I made in muslin here to protect the main fabrics from any staining from the wire. If you want a really stiff hat or to give it a bit of structure, you can use fusible interfacing. I'll be using some Pellon Decor Bond non-woven interfacing for the interior. Please note that none of the products that I mentioned are sponsored, it's just what I'm using for this project. You may want some funky threads to top stitch onto your hat as part of the design, either in rainbow or glow-in-the-dark or holographic thread.
Is this thing real? Hollow?
Yes, I said hollow. Christine, the Hollow Queen, if you see this, yes, there is holographic thread out there in multiple colors. For the last of the supplies, you're going to want some tape to tape together the ends of the wire that you're using to secure it in place. And in millinery, my teacher suggested floral tape. And you'll also want some wire cutters to cut said wire that you'll be using. Be sure to use eye protection when you do. Lastly, for more decorations, you can have things like flowers if you have it, decorative cords, other Halloween vibe or decor, and buttons. Thank you for joining me on this part 1 of a multi-part series on how to make this witch hat. It will probably be, it's currently looking like it's probably going to be in about 2 different videos. This one is for the materials, of course, and the next one is going to be on construction, because I'm still waiting for fabric to come in. If you happen to like what you see, please like and subscribe, comment down below if you plan on making one of these hats for yourself, or if you happen to have a favorite Halloween decoration. Until next time, I'll see you later. Bye! Okay, take 2. Deleted the first one so I don't get confused. Oh wait, hang on. Other hat is in the way. That doesn't belong there. I really need to decorate. And I need to... Stay put. Okay, taking a still for the thumbnail. I really need to replace the wire in this thing. Man, how old is this hat? It's probably plastic that's on the inside of this. It's all... Yeah, it doesn't really retain shape anymore. This is all made out of, like, crappy felt. It's not even good felt. I like the outside, though. Because this veil bit is fun. I don't know, maybe I'll take this apart and actually use the veil on another hat.